How to go from big ideas to big action taking to really create some momentum for your ideas. Simple. Break it down. What up? It's Dalaney Davis. And in this episode, I want to share with you how to go from massive ideas, things that are unfathomable, things that might take decades to implement, and break them down into small actions that you can achieve today. Because really, it's action that creates what it is we're here to do, not ideas. Ideas are easy. Ideas are free. It's about turning them into action. Also, action actually creates fulfillment. Taking action on our ideas is what lights us up, is what makes us feel good. So we must take action, or else we feel numb, or else we start feeling depressed because we're not in motion. Life is about movement. Life is about growth. So we must turn our massive ideas into actions today. So one of the first things is The One Big Thing, which is a book I highly recommend reading, which is super simple and asks a really potent question. So think about the thing you want to achieve someday. Someday, one day. Someday, one day, I want to start a podcast. Someday, one day, I want to have my own agency. Someday, one day, I want to have a freedom-based business that generates me $100,000 per year, cash, easy peasy. Whatever it might be, think of the thing you want someday. Now, the question you ask yourself with this distinction from the one big thing is, what's the one thing that I can do within the next 10 years that will make this goal easier or unnecessary? And you ask that question. And it might be, have an agency, right? And then you ask, okay, what's the one thing I can do within the next 5 years that will make this goal easier or unnecessary? And then you go 1 year, and then you go 6 months. 3 months, 1 month, 1 week, and then what's the one thing I can do today that will make achieving my goal easier or unnecessary? And this is one question you can use to break down a massive idea into a small, actionable step. Now, some troubleshooting for you if you need it. Say you're not taking action. Say you've had something in your calendar for weeks and you keep bumping it, you keep moving it, or it's on your to-do list and it keeps just staying there and you're not taking action. So the primary question you should be asking yourself, is this a mindset gap or a skill set gap? This is the first question. So say you want to write a blog post. Is it a mindset gap or a skill set gap? Is the mindset gap that I'm not smart enough, that no one will read it, that I'm not good enough? What is some bullshit belief that you have that is stopping you from writing this blog post? Or if you're free up on that and you're feeling positive and you're feeling charged, but you're still not taking action, then what's the skill set gap? Now the skill set gap might be like, I have no idea how to write a blog post. I have no idea how to start that creative project. I have no idea how to hire someone. What is the skill set gap that you have to your big idea? And go get it. Don't ask how, ask who. Who can help you with the skill sets to execute on that action? This is another one of my favorite questions. A third one, because I just have so many distinctions to help with creative chaos, I'm just going to keep riffing, see where we end up. How many do you think we'll get to? Third one is that if you're not taking action, then the task is probably too big. You must break it down even more. So one of my things that I always do is when I have some big content creation idea is it always starts huge. It always starts as some massive program, some 10-week program, some year-long container, whatever it might be, some massive distinction that then I have to break down. And I go, cool, I'm going to build a program on building business models. And then I just don't do it. It just gets stuck in my calendar. So what I do then is I break it down into, okay, what are the modules that are required for a business model training? And still, I'm frozen. I'm like, nothing gets done. And what ends up happening, I've now learned from myself, is what I have to do is when I have an idea, is I put it in my calendar for when I'm my most creative, which is in the mornings, and all I do in the calendar link is I add a Google Doc with the title of the idea. And that is me starting. That is it. And I simply open the Google Doc and I begin. We must find the small hinge that will open the big door. And oftentimes when our ideas and the things we want to create are too big, we freeze. Now we've dealt with the mindset and the skill set, we've broken it down, but it's still frozen. So come back to yourself and go, cool, how do I break this down into even more itty-bitty tiny parts? Now, my next one. This is one of my favorites, is are you a little frog or are you a big frog? Now, let me explain. Some people like to start their creative projects by starting with the big, meaty, challenging thing first. So that's the concept of eating the big frog. Now there's a whole book about it, but I'll summarize it to you in 30 seconds, which is start with the hard task. Okay, maybe not 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Start with a hard task. This is how you should start your projects. This is how you should start your day, is start by eating the big frog. Now, is this you? Now, personally, I'm not a big frog eater. This is actually not how I get up and going and create momentum for my projects. I'm a small frog. And what a small frog is like the distinction I was creating earlier of breaking it down into small parts, is how can you find the smallest possible task that will get you in action so you can ride the momentum. Much like a checklist, what I like to do is when I have a task, say open the Google Doc, I'll also have in the Google Doc, make the title, explain what it is, and make it really simple so I can start riding the momentum. And what happens is like a snowball effect, is I end up just riding that momentum all the way down and getting very good results from my actions. So, what have I shared with you? We've got the one big thing, that primary question of what's the one thing I can do to make this goal easier or unnecessary and break it down through time, from 10 years to 5 years to 3 years to 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, 1 week, and today. I also have the mindset and skill set gap. Which is it? This is a great question to ask yourself if you're feeling stuck on your ideas. Breaking it down into the smallest bite-sized bits possible, and then wondering and asking yourself, am I a big frog or a little frog? I hope these distinctions help with getting your creative genius into the world, and as always, love your work,